Today. Give him a little infomercial down there in South Charleston if you haven't visited his place. We are really excited today to have someone I've known for a long time, Mr. Fred King and Shauna Johnson, who's going to do the proper introduction here, but I've known him for a long time, and his presentation is going to be quite interesting and timely for all of us to enjoy. So as you partake in your lunch, I'm going to turn it over to a partner of ours at West Virginia University. She's the Director of News and Communication, Ms. Shauna Johnson.
It is wonderful to be with you all today on West Virginia University's birthday. The university was founded 158 years ago today. It's been serving the state and its people since then. I'm a proud product of the university. I've been able to live an interesting, fun life because of the opportunities I got there, and I know many other people in this room have as well. And I'm happy to see so many students here because someday you'll be up here at the podium leading us, and we're thrilled to see what you're going to do as you go out into the world. A couple other people I do want to mention since we have a moment. We are available to you at West Virginia University when the institution is making news itself, and also to support your other reporting. So if you ever need an expert or if you want to bounce ideas off of us, I'm available. Again, I'm Shauna Johnson, the Director of News Communications. My supervisor couldn't be here today because of a number of campus events. April Call, the Executive Director of Communications. We're all familiar with a lot of people sitting up here near the front, so please continue to reach out to us, and we're always happy to hear from you and work with you. We want to let you know about a couple of faces that'll be here in Charleston on the ground during the session that you can use as resources as well. I didn't give him a heads up, so Travis maybe chew quicker. But Travis Mollahan is our Associate Vice President for Government Relations and Collaboration. He's in the back. And then to his left is Dan Kimball, our Director of State Relations and Senior Advisor. And I believe Azim Khan, our Presidential Fellow, had to leave, but Azim is a Charleston native, our 26th Truman Scholar, and he's available to help you however he can as well. I'm happy to see so many of you reporters getting vegetables because pretty soon you'll be living on Cheez-Its and Diet Coke and a dream. Is that still the thing? Oh, and a beer? Amelia says a beer. Well, good luck during the next 60 days. We're all counting on you. I'm here to introduce your lunch speaker. One of my favorite people on campus, Fred King, serves as Vice President of Research at West Virginia University. He is also a professor in the C. Eugene Bennett Department of Chemistry, which is part of the Eberly College of Arts and Sciences. He has a bachelor's degree in chemistry. He has a PhD in analytical chemistry. So I don't know, are you giving us a quiz today, Fred, or no? Hopefully not on the quiz. His former graduate students hold positions in academia, industry, and national laboratories, and he is here today to talk to you about the importance of investment in research. Quite a timely topic. Fred.
Okay. Please bear with my voice. I'm recovering from a cold. I want to start by saying that Doug and Shauna are great examples of what the university is all about. The university is about taking the sons and daughters of West Virginia and giving them an opportunity to show what brilliant people they are and help put them on a path towards a very successful career. And from my perspective, research is a key part of that education that they go through. This is going to be tricky because, let's see. Okay, I'm used to speaking from slides. I'm a faculty member, so when we talk about the university, we talk about a land-grant R1 university. Land-grant universities, in case you don't remember, they were a product that came out of the Civil War. They were designed specifically to help states and help the citizens in states learn important skills in agriculture, in mechanical areas, and things like that, so they could advance their state and regional economies. And that's still a very important part of what we at West Virginia University do today. And then there's this other thing called being an R1 university. That's a Carnegie classification. The Carnegie Council on Higher Education uses those classifications so they can compare similar institutions. R1 means you're at the highest level of research productivity, as determined really by research expenditures and the production of research doctorates. When we think about the university, next slide, please. Okay, just to sort of review, there are over 300 academic programs at WVU, and there are about 5,900 graduate students. Again, one of the key differentiators for research universities is a high enrollment of graduate students, students who are pursuing their PhD degree in research. Each year, more than 25% of our graduates are graduate students who are receiving master's or PhD degrees. In terms of the research productivity, in the most recent year, we had $115 million in federal research support. These are competitive grants that the faculty go out, they write proposals for, and they secure the funding to do the work that they want to engage in. I think an important part of that, though, is that that employs over 3,000 FTE people in the Morgantown region. These are students, these are postdoctoral fellows, these are technicians. These are the people who day-to-day run the research enterprise of the institution. And then finally, we talk about publications. The coin of the realm in academic research are peer-reviewed publications. These are publications that people with the same expertise that you have go out and evaluate. Is this good work? Is this important work? Is this worthy of publication? As important as publications are, the other important metric is citations. Citations are where other researchers name your work as part of what they looked at when they were formulating their own ideas and writing their own papers. So, it's one thing to have something published, but it's that citation piece that tells you, is the work having impact? Are other people looking at the work, and are they using that to advance our knowledge in various fields? Next slide, please. All right, so why research? Why is this a part of university mission? And particularly at land-grant universities, they have a threefold mission: teaching, service, and research. And I will tell you that in reality, these things blend together. You can't have any one of these without the other two. And that's a key hallmark of research land-grant universities. The research they engage in is designed to help advance knowledge, but it's also, again, going back to that original land-grant idea. It's how can we help the state we serve? How can we help it grow economically? How can we make sure its citizens get the best possible education, have the greatest possible opportunities in life? I think that, that's where I get to with that first statement. It's really about students. Okay, everything we do is about students. And I can tell you, in West Virginia, we have some of the most amazing students I have ever known. I've been with institutions across the nation, and we have students in West Virginia that can compete with all of them. As I think Shauna mentioned earlier, we have students who graduate from the university who go on to be leaders in the state of West Virginia. They lead in the corporate world. They lead in government labs. They're involved in extremely important work every day, serving the state and the nation. But a key part of their experience is that of discovery. So we also know that in order for the students to be successful, the faculty they work with have to be working at the forefront of their disciplines. When I was thinking about a career in higher education, one of the things I was trying to decide was, do I go teach at a 4-year liberal arts school, or do I go to a research university? And I can tell you there's a big difference. Because I went to a 4-year liberal arts school, the faculty there were wonderful, but their knowledge of the field seemed to begin and end at about the time they left graduate school. At a research university, the faculty are continuously engaged in their discipline. They're bringing the latest and greatest ideas from the field into the classroom. They know what's going on in industry. They know what's important. They know what problems need to be solved. And they share those with the students. And they engage the students in thinking about, how do we address those problems? How can we do our part to make things better? And so, again, it kind of goes like that last point. It's really research, but it's also about service. And it's about experiential learning for the student. The students that we train leave with the sense of, it's not just about me, it's about a larger service, a larger contribution that I need to make to society. I've had an opportunity, I've had a wonderful opportunity at the university, now it's my chance to give back. And I think that's an important thing that we impart to our citizens. Next slide, please. All right, I mentioned about experiential learning as a key part of the student experience. The example here, this young man, Matt Williams, it's interesting. He said, I came to the university and I knew I wanted to study science, but I really didn't have a clue what that meant or what I wanted to do. So by working in Professor Shrivastava's lab, and here he's working with a graduate student who's helping show him the ropes of research, he studied how you identify breast cancer markers in blood cells. That experience was transformative for him. Based upon that, he committed himself to a career in cancer research. And to this day, he's pursuing his education, moving along that track so that he can better help people who have breast cancer. He knew about breast cancer as disease, but he didn't really understand the magnitude of it or the kinds of challenges we face if we're going to address it. And again, it was his research experience as an undergraduate student that really transformed him. Next slide, please. One of the things that I find most interesting about West Virginia University is we have amazing faculty. I've already mentioned the amazing students we have. We truly have faculty who could be anywhere in the world. Professor Randy Nelson, over on the right-hand side of the screen, he is a leading expert in neuroscience, fundamental neuroscience. Randy started his career at Johns Hopkins University, moved up through the ranks there. He went over to the National Science Foundation, where he was a program officer in the area of neurosciences. And then from there, he went to the Ohio State University, where he had a brilliant career. And then about 6 years ago, we recruited Randy to come to West Virginia University to lead our fundamental neurosciences program. And Randy came because it was not about the pay, the prestige. It was about the opportunity to serve students, to work very closely with students and help them become the next generation of neuroscientists. On the other side of the screen, we have Professor Maura McLaughlin. You've probably heard a lot about Maura. She won the Shaw Prize along with her husband, Duncan Lorimer, for the discovery of fast radio bursts. And then she was one of our first people to be elected to the National Academy of Sciences from West Virginia. Maura is an individual who is world-renowned for her work in astrophysics. She's had two major accomplishments there: the fast radio burst discovery, as well as the discovery of low-frequency gravitational waves using pulsars. She is recruited very heavily to go to other institutions. But what keeps Maura and Duncan in West Virginia is their commitment to students. They came here over 20 years ago, and they wanted to do something different. We had the Green Bank telescope. They can make use of that. But they wanted to work with students. And one of the amazing things that Maura did was start something called the Pulsar Search Collaboratory. And that's where school students, K-12 students, can use their computers and actively be part of searching for new pulsars. And they've discovered a couple already. And so it's really amazing to me that you have someone like Maura McLaughlin, internationally recognized, but her real passion is for the students and seeing them enjoy discovery and learning. Next slide, please. So we have some academic research differentiators at the university: astrophysics, cybersecurity, energy, forensic science, neuroscience, robotics. Here's the interesting thing, though. These are not things that we just decided to do yesterday. I mentioned the astrophysics. Our work in astrophysics, building that program, bringing Duncan Maura to the university, that started about the same time the new Robert C. Byrd telescope was dedicated. And that would have been in the late 1990s. So you see, it's a long-term, many-decade project as we build these programs. Energy's easy. We've been doing that for so long. When the state was founded, the university was founded, a key part of our economy has always been energy and energy-related industries. And so that's something that we've worked at for a long time, and we continue to work in that area. And we follow the trends there. And it's not to the exclusion of any one source of energy, but it's really thinking about how do we take the resources in West Virginia and make the most of them. Cybersecurity, that sounds like a new area. In reality, over 20 years ago, we had one of the first NSA-certified cybersecurity programs in our Department of Computer Sciences. So we've been working at that for a long time. Forensic science is similar. When the FBI decided to move the facility to Clarksburg, West Virginia, again, some 25 years ago, we built a program in forensic science. We are the #1 forensic science program in the country. People come from everywhere trying to get into WVU's forensic science program. We have the PhD program in forensic science. And so for us, it's an area of pride. And again, it's something that when people think about West Virginia University, they know about these things. They know we have a top forensic program. They know we have a world-famous astrophysics program. They know we're the leaders in energy research. Neuroscience, we've been at that for 20 plus years. Yes, Randy came here maybe 6 years ago, but we had things going on long before that. And now, of course, we have Dr. Razai and his work. Robotics is another one. As that field has evolved, we've continued to work very diligently there. And we think today about the interface of robotics and AI and how that's going to continue to revolutionize things. Next slide, please. All right. So in the area of astrophysics, I'm going to go through a few examples of press releases that have come out of the university over the last couple of years in these different areas. So the first one is this discovery of low-frequency gravitational waves. That was actually students working with faculty. Again, none of these things that the faculty do, they do by themselves. They do in concert with students. The students working in their laboratories, working side by side with them, learning the ropes of what they're doing. Here we see the information about the Shaw Prize, the Nobel Prize of the East, as it's called. Dunk and Mora and their students discovered this weird phenomena called fast radio bursts. These are transient bursts of radiomagnetic energy that go through the solar system. What are the sources of these? We don't know. After their discovery of this, it's become a new field of exploration in astrophysics. Understand, what are these sources? What do they mean? What do they tell us about the formation of the early universe? And again, we're on the forefront of that. Next. And then, of course, this summer, we were very fortunate in terms of Mara was elected to the National Academy of Sciences, the first West Virginia University faculty member to receive that honor. And that group elects, it's a peer group. Members of the academy elect the new members. The fact that Mara gets elected is an indication of her stature in the scientific community, not just in physics or astrophysics, but the scientific community writ large. Likewise, Duncan, her husband, he got the Royal Society Fellowship. Duncan is a citizen of the UK, so he's not eligible for the National Academy's membership. He is eligible for this, to be a fellow of the Royal Society. And again, it is as prestigious, and also there are so few of those people, it's just like being in the National Academies for a US citizen. So again, these are people who could be anywhere in the world. They choose to be at West Virginia University because they are dedicated to our mission, to serve our students and to serve our state. Next, please. Cybersecurity and forensic science. It's very interesting. The forensic group, they've made some headway with green gunshot residue. Hard for me to say that. Newer gunshot residue is not like old gunshot residue because the chemical composition has changed, making it harder to trace sources. The forensic science group has worked through and discovered new ways to make those identifications so that they can help when it comes to cracking cases. The cybersecurity work, the note that came out there was about our work to establish a cybersecurity test range. This was, for lack of a better term, an enclosed system wherein our students could play out cybersecurity threats and defenses to those threats. And so they're learning firsthand how they would do this work when they go out and take a job in the world. Next slide, please. So in the area of energy, our history is there. We're number 53 from the Department of Energy's funding. Okay. That puts us ahead of places like the University of Virginia. We are recognized by the United States Department of Energy as a leader in research. A lot of this is based upon our experience with fossil energy sources, with boilers, with materials for energy usage. But also, we're number 44 in USDA funding. That's something we don't think about. because these things are interrelated. All right? One of the key projects we have is the Appalachian Biomass Project, a USDA project. It is a consortium of several universities, several national laboratories, as well as the private sector, and it is looking at biomass that can grow in Appalachia and how that can be utilized both as an energy resource and also as a feedstock for chemicals and pharmaceuticals. So that's an important project that we're a key part of. We have long worked in carbon dioxide capture utilization. We're part of a large collaboration between national labs, universities, industry, looking at shale gas utilization. And really it's Professor John Hu's work in this area where he's looked at the ability to use microwaves to take shale gas, split it out to generate hydrogen that we can use as a fuel, and also carbon fibers, which are a key component in manufacturing. So you see there that we have an ability both to have the raw material we need for the manufacturing as well as the energy resource for the manufacturing. Next, please. And this is really talking about Professor Hu's work, using these microwaves for a variety of industrial processes, including the one I just mentioned about taking shale gas, converting it to carbon for carbon fibers, and hydrogen for energy. Professor Sobalski's work is more around materials that can be used in solid oxide fuel cells that can convert hydrogen or methane directly into electricity. Next slide, please. Neuroscience. This is an area that you probably hear a lot about from the university. And really it's Professor Rezai's work with deep brain stimulation, where he uses focused ultrasound in order to break the blood-brain barrier and introduce drugs, or also to modify behavior of individuals. He's talked about how this treats substance abuse. And here's an earlier segment from television where they're talking with a substance abuse survivor who Professor Rezai's work has helped curb their appetite for the drugs. Here's Dr. Marsh, and he's with a group of future neuroscientists. We have what's called the Brain Camp in the summer. That's where people come, they study with Professor Nelson, Professor Rezai, and they get the experience of what it's like to be a neuroscientist. And that extends from being a basic neuroscientist all the way over to being a physician who works in neurosciences. So that gives you some idea of the work there. Next slide. This was from last year, about a year ago, when Professor Rezai appeared on 60 Minutes. And think about that. After that, people from across the world reached out to West Virginia University because they wanted treatment with Professor Rezai. We had to set up a separate hotline in WVU Medicine to track all the requests for people wanting to become a patient of Dr. Rezai. And so when people think about treatment for Alzheimer's, innovative treatment, they think about West Virginia now because of Dr. Rezai's work. And again, this is just more of a fundamental science study trying to think about what are those underlying mechanisms that lead to Alzheimer's. So if we can understand the biochemistry behind these things, then we can think about what are the possible solutions. How do we interfere with that biochemistry? How do we correct the miswiring that has occurred? Next slide, please. Robotics and space science. This is an area where I think the university has been very active in, but you maybe don't hear as much about it. I think the most recent thing here was when we won the 2023 NASA Rover Challenge. We were the university team that designed a new kind of NASA rover for Mars exploration. We compete with many teams from across the country. We came out number one. And again, I will say that in my time at the university, what's always amazed me is the students we work with. And it's not just their intelligence, it's their perseverance. It is their work ethic. That's what distinguishes them from students I've seen in other states, other universities. We also have the NASA-supported Robotic Technology Center that's down in Fairmont at the High Tech Consortium Park. And then more recently, the NASA-supported Space Instrument Development Facility. We are number 60 in NASA funding. You think about it, West Virginia is number 60 in NASA funding. People don't realize that, but we are on the forefront. We're on the cutting edge of this work. And you see that benefits us in terms of the burgeoning space science industry growing up around Clarksburg, where we had the aerospace industry moving in and starting to grow. Again, all of these things tie back in one way or another to West Virginia and unique opportunities here. Next, please. Nick Sklazarek, he's very interesting. He's in engineering, and in his lab, they study motion. They study a motion of things like insects, caterpillars, what have you. And then what they try to do is mimic that motion through robotics. And here he's working with an undergraduate student. They're working on one of their robots. But some of the robots are very, very tiny. And of course, the next phase is thinking about how you couple that ability to mimic motion of small creatures with AI. And then you start having independent machines that can do things on their own. Here's an example of the work with UAVs, going through, looking at force, doing force metrics, measuring trees, what have you, trying to understand the canopy. Again, something we do through both our College of Engineering and our College of Agriculture. Next slide, please. And at the end of the day, as I say so many times, it's about the students. We have students who compete with anyone. They get Fulbrights. They get Goldwaters. Even Azim can get a Truman because he's brilliant. Okay? Our students are unparalleled. And we forget that at times. I think that we tend to underwrite the capability of the people we have in this state. And to some degree, I think that can be our biggest advantage. People don't expect us to be as competitive as we are. And we come out and we can always win when we want to. Next slide. These are students who are undergraduates and now they're NSF graduate research fellows. They're going on to pursue their graduate degree. And then, of course, I'm an old guy, and so what I try to remember is these are the students, but we also have these other folks who are new faculty who they weren't even students when I started out at the university. But they are also phenomenal individuals. We have some of the best people in the world. Maggie Benowitz, Oishi Sanyal, Kevin Warner. They come to the university because they are driven by a passion to serve others. And I think we forget that sometimes about the faculty we have. They can do anything, particularly faculty in the STEM. They have many opportunities. They can go work in the private sector, they can work in the government, or they can come to the university. And the folks that come to the university and stay are the folks who want to work with students and help them succeed and excel. Next, please. We work hard in the area of STEM education. I'm a scientist. That's the key to the future, all right? The new opportunities to advance the economy are going to be driven by technology. And we have to educate people. They have to be able to do mathematics. They have to understand science and technology. They have to understand AI. They have to understand data sciences. This is the world into which they are going to go. And these are the things that they need. It's a daunting task, I can tell you. We have the WVU Teach program trying to develop that next generation of STEM teachers. But we also have the Public Education Collaborative, where people like Jennifer Robertson Honaker are out there working with K-12 students, trying to inspire them and show them that anyone can do science. It just takes a little bit of work, a little bit of dedication. Next slide, please. And then there's our mission in healthcare. I think in the last 10 years, we have transformed healthcare in West Virginia through the things that we've done through WVU Medicine. We're now a partner with a team of institutions thinking about how you advance innovations in healthcare from the lab to the marketplace to try to grow the biomedical technology market regionally. And then Sally Hodder. She's our first member of the National Academy of Medicine. All right. Sally is an amazing infectious disease doctor. We recruited her here probably about 10 years ago to lead our Center for Translational Science and Innovation. That entity serves to take fundamental bench scale research and rapidly translate it to the patient's bedside to have impact. One of the things that Sally has done recently that I'm most proud of for her is her ability to extend clinical trials across the state. She got federal funding for a mobile clinical trials unit. That means that anyone in West Virginia can now have access to clinical trials that can really make a difference in the treatment of their disease. And so, again, that's Sally's hard work. Sally can be anywhere. Chapel Hill tried to recruit Sally a few years ago. But the thing that Sally told me was they could not match us in terms of the passion we have collectively to address healthcare problems in West Virginia. And that's what keeps Sally at the university. Next, please. There's research that shows that an R1 university does have benefits to state. These 5 states, for the moment, don't have R1 universities. All right? They're small rural states like us. Next slide, please. This is their most recent GDP rankings. All right? One more slide. And you'll notice where we rank. Now, I can't say definitively that's because we're an R1 university, that the state has an R1 university, but there does seem to be some relationship. The one outlier here is Idaho. Well, they're lucky because they have Micron in Idaho. That's a game changer for them. I submit to you, we will have game changers for us in West Virginia because of the work our students and faculty are doing. But again, having an R1 university does seem to help when it comes to economic development within your state. Next slide, please. Research growth at the university, this sort of sums up over the last few years. Total research expenditures have gone from 155 to 275 million. And that's since 2018. COVID didn't really hurt us. Again, we've been moving forward. And there are other numbers there I can talk about, but to me, it's really this number here and the number of PhDs. That will ensure that we remain an R1 university well into the future. Next slide, please. Where does the money come from to support research? Of that total 246 million, remember I said about 115 million were federal dollars. The institution has to put in dollars as well, because oftentimes we have to provide cost share to match the federal funds. And so this can be support for students usually, support for laboratory equipment, getting someone's idea up and going before they can get federal funding. We get some from foundation resources here, nonprofits down here, a little bit from business, and a little bit from the state. These are state contracts where we do work for the state. All right, next slide, please. For me, this is the one I think about daily, because these are our federal dollars. These are the dollars we compete for. And I think about this in terms of having a portfolio. Because of WVU Medicine, because of what we do there, we have a large proportion that's HHS money, NIH. That's understandable. That makes sense. We have National Science Foundation funding, the NASA funding. Remember I mentioned there where we're number 60. DOE funding. Again, if you were to look at a similar university, these ratios might be a little bit different. There might be more HHS. There would definitely be less DOE because most universities aren't as heavily invested there as we are. We have the USDA money, though, too. We excel there. And I think that, from my perspective, the important thing is that all of our eggs are not in one basket. They're distributed. And it really reflects the ability of the university to have a global view in terms of its research enterprise and trying to do a variety of things and do them well enough that we can attract federal funding to the institution. Here's data from the most recent National Science Foundation Higher Education Research and Development Survey. And I just use this to sort of show where we are in the scheme of things. Interesting point, Kansas State University, until recently, they were ahead of us. Okay, so we're moving ahead. Oklahoma State University is very interesting because the way they get up to R1 is not through their federal dollars. It's through their investment of their internal dollars. If I were to look at their pie chart of institutional investments, that would be a huge sector, like 70%. They bought their way into R1, is the way I tell people. Interesting facts. The top 20 universities get $21 billion, or about 35% of the federal R&D funds. Hopkins alone gets 5.6%. Then you go down to like Pitt, they're number 10, they get about 1.5%. It takes 10 universities like WVU to have the same level of funding as Pitt. There are programs like EPSCoR, COBRA, IDEA that are designed to help universities like WVU to make that landscape more competitive, because certainly those universities have advantages we don't have. So those federal programs are very important to the state and to the university. Next slide, please. Final slide. Aren't you lucky? I think the key thing here is that research is a curiosity-driven enterprise, and through that, students learn a variety of skills. We talk about curiosity as being one of the main mountaineer values. But really, it's the things that you learn through the research process as a student that will serve you throughout your lifetime, throughout your career. And I have to say, with the students I work with, whether they're undergraduate or graduate students from West Virginia, it's not just their curiosity, it is their work ethic, it is their drive, it is their desire to do a great job. And that's what differentiates our students in the marketplace. And with that, I think that ends the slides. Next. All right. Questions? I get excited about research. It's my passion. Sorry. Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you on that count, too. Mike Tony, Gazette Mail. Just broadly speaking, I think it's all on our minds what kind of impacts, if any, you're seeing or foresee that you might see from some of the federal freeze, pause on spending. You know, we've seen NIH, NSF touched. What kind of impacts are you seeing at WVU?
Thank you. That concern has occupied the majority of my time over the last week. And the first thing I tell people is, don't panic, okay? Because I think that people sort of have an overreaction. The reality is that nothing drastic has occurred. And I think that if you overreact, then you only create a sense of panic that's not useful. To date, what we've seen is that, yes, there are a few programs that may have involved DEI that we're having to look at in terms of likely loss of those federal funds. But that's a small fraction of what we do. And again, think about it. What we focus on are science, engineering, and healthcare. These are goods that are of value to everyone. And I do not anticipate that the federal government, at the end of the day, is going to do things that hurt these enterprises, because that's in no one's best interest. And I can tell you that, we work with our folks in DC all the time, and they are nothing but helpful. So, from my perspective, it's an uncertain time. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't make predictions. But in general, I believe things are going to be okay. I believe the worst thing you can do right now is panic, because we're still doing research, we're still spending the money, we're still getting the grants.
Other questions?
Alex, Tejada 13 News. What are some expanding or new areas of research you guys are looking into at WVU that you guys would be proud of?
Well, I think, again, they're kind of in those key signature programs, if you would. I think one area that's very exciting going forward is as we strengthen and build the Cancer Institute. We have strong cancer research at the university, but our goal is to get NCI designation. And I think that is another area that can be a game changer, not just for the university, but for the state, because we know cancer is such a big problem in West Virginia. And the things that we can do to address that problem are going to be a key part of our mission going forward.
Anyone else?
I appreciate your time today. Thank you all very much.